Good morning and welcome to Sprint Review 3 for AR Fortress West Point. We are cadets Brandon Tyson, Peter Valentis, Adis Pasco, Cynthia Garrett, and Brian Gerstenfeld. The purpose of our project is to use augmented reality to illustrate the strategic importance of Fort Meigs, create a feeling of connectedness between the user and the 6th Connecticut Regiment, and bring the user back in time to 1778 in order to enhance the historical learning experience of the app's users at West Point. In its present state, Fort Meigs does not resemble the way it appeared when it was used in the defense of Fort Arnold and the Great Chain during the Revolutionary War. As a result, it is impossible for site visitors to understand why the fort was constructed and its significant importance at West Point. By utilizing the tools of augmented reality, we will create an app that uses 3D models paired with music, verbal, and written history in order to immerse the user and make them feel as though it was 1778 and demonstrate visually the strategic importance of Fort Meigs.
Our sprint goal for Sprint 3 was that we develop features in the app that highlight the importance of Fort Meigs and West Point's defense in depth, and also that we begin production of digital art assets by purchasing them and produce an approved critical design. Our capacity was 192.5 hours for the 11 lessons. We actually expected it to take us 204.5 hours. We completed 179 hours for bringing us to a total scope of 0.93. This is our product backlog. These are our sprint completed items. The tutorial page is implemented from last year's example tutorial page. We simply need to edit it to be specific to our app, but it currently does pop up when the user is prompted and begins the app. Cleaning up the user interface, we have been able to begin basic manipulation of buttons, so we can begin changing the button's color and making it flash upon scanning an item. These were the items we were unable to complete during this sprint. The first item is create the infantry animation on the maps. This was unable to be completed because I got hung up on figuring out how to implement the buttons. The entire art asset menu I spent a little bit of time with trying to import last year's code, but so far I've had zero success with integrating last year's code into our current app. This is our burn down chart. We completed our critical design review last week.
In this sprint, besides working on products for the CDR, I also worked on ordering the 3D wall asset and on implementing closed captioning into the app. For the wall asset, this required a visit to the site in order to record measurements of the wall, as well as several phone calls with the company creating the wall, High Impact. I received a quote from them to produce the wall and gave it to Lieutenant Colonel Scully, and as of now I am tracking we are waiting on the donor to get the money to place the order. From what I have been told, it should take a couple weeks to produce the wall, and we will be able to send it back for any changes we want. As for the closed captioning, I split the dialogues written by Brian and implemented the first dialogue, but had a user error deploying it on the iPad. Additionally, for now, each segment of text is set to appear on screen for 5 seconds. This will change once audio for each dialogue is added. I will then set times for the text to match that dialogue.
Part of my responsibility for this project is to write an article about digital history and how our augmented reality project provides a unique user learning experience compared to other forms of digital history. I have already researched a number of digital history articles and begun writing the first draft of my article that I will be turning in to Lieutenant Colonel Scully on Friday. In addition to the paper, I worked with Noel to improve the survey we will be giving to our trial users. I have created a multiple choice quiz to test how much information they learned from using the app. I have also included questions about the historical experience that will be answered using a Likert scale.
For this sprint, I worked on creating the IRB form so that we can begin user studies. In order for us to be able to submit the IRB form, we have to have all of our questions approved so that we can get them approved by IRB. So we're going to do this, we're going to test user knowledge and feedback through 2 surveys. They will be given the AR Fortress knowledge survey twice, once at the beginning of their experience and once at the end. This is so that we can compare how much their knowledge has improved through the use of the app. In between this, they will be given just a general survey for their feedback. The general survey will include 3 sections. The first section is navigation and ease of use. Next section is audio and visual effects. And the final section is historical aspects.
This is our product roadmap.
Tyson will begin to make the selectable art menu and tap to create feature of the app. I will begin user testing as soon as our IRB form has been completed and start to analyze the results. I will also help add signifiers and constraints into the GUI.
I will add the remaining closed captioning dialogues and time it to the audio, and I will also implement touch in place.
Otis will work on recording the dialogues, and I'll oversee the user testing with Noel, continue to work on my article, and help Brandon with some of the animations on the maps.